Have you ever had that realization that if a friend came to you with a problem seeking advice, more often than not, you would know exactly what to tell them? You would have good, actionable advice readily available, and you would be reasonably convinced that whatever advice you give them will actually help them solve their problem. Now, when it comes to you though, when you are the one with the problem, all of a sudden that rational mind that was able to effectively help their friend seems to shut down, and we suddenly become unable to find a sensible solution to whatever problem we are facing. We lose perspective. It seems that most of us are able to show up for someone else, but not for ourselves. Most of us have the capacity to be objectively reasonable and wise when it comes to solving a problem, so long as it is not our problem. That's when our brains begin to malfunction. We start overthinking, overanalyzing, and overcomplicating things. Why does our creativity turn from a problem-solving superpower into a problem amplifier flamethrower? Why does it decide to come up with increasingly creative excuses to avoid fixing our problem instead of increasingly creative solutions? Well, I think most of us would agree that there's a very simple explanation for this phenomenon. When it's someone else's problem, we don't have to face the consequences of whatever happens, so it's easier to dispense some advice without worrying too much about the outcome. But when it is our problem, we do have to pay the price if things go wrong, and so the stakes are higher and therefore we shut down. However, this doesn't necessarily explain why we shut down. One thing is to not take action, another thing is to have no idea what to do at all. Now, what I realize is that the reason we can solve someone else's problem is because there's distance between us and them. But most importantly, there's distance between us and the potential consequences. And that distance gives us perspective. That simple reason is why we're able to find solutions and answers that appear unavailable to that person who is standing so close to the problem that they lose that perspective. They quite literally can't see past the problem. Now, the same thing happens to us when we are the ones facing a problem. And again, the solution is exactly the same. To have full access to that wisdom and objectivity that we can summon for someone else, we need to put some distance between us and whatever problem we're facing. And the best way to put some distance between you and something is to move. Think about it like this. Imagine the problem you're facing is a wall, basically an obstacle. If you stand too close to it, all you can see is the wall. Your perspective is very limited. However, the key is to realize that no one is forcing you to stay there. The wall won't move, but you can. And as soon as you start putting some distance between you and the wall, your perspective suddenly becomes much broader. You're now able to see alternative routes, tools you could use, and actions you could take. That wall suddenly looks insignificant compared to the amount of options you have at your disposal. And those resources, as well as your ability to use them, were always there. You were just not able to see them because you lacked perspective. Your body is the key to your brain lock. Move it, and the lock will open. Go for a walk or a run, grab your bike or your car keys, put some distance between you and your wall, and you'll realize it's nothing but an obstacle. You'll soon notice that you didn't really have a problem. You just lacked perspective.